I recently had to experience something that scarred me for life. But what I did after was even crazier. Yesterday, my husband slammed the attic door and hissed, "Stay up here until you remember who pays the bills." Fury boiled under the rafters. I owned the deed, and he was out of time. But before we begin, smash that like button and drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. It never stops amazing me how far our stories travel. I'd always loved the creak of old floorboards. They reminded me of summer Sundays in my late mother's kitchen, sticky with peach jam and possibility. Funny how nostalgia can turn on you. Last night, those same boards groaned beneath my husband Tim's boots as he thundered up the narrow stairs to the attic of the Victorian I inherited. My house, though he strutted around as if it were a kingdom he'd conquered. "Rachel, you're ruining my dinner," he growled, wrist deep in the splinters of an antique trunk I'd been rearranging. Clients he hoped to impress were gathered downstairs around linen-draped platters. Apparently, my sweat-stained t-shirt didn't match the perfect wife aesthetic. With one shove, he herded me through the doorway, snapped a rusty latch, slid a padlock home, and said in a voice sticky with self-importance, "Stay put. We'll talk when you calm down." Calm? The splintered wood at my back almost laughed. I pressed my ear to the floorboards. Below, crystal clinked. A woman's giggle, airy, practiced. I recognized the soprano trill. Cassie, his colleague who liked to forward flirty memes long after business hours. Did he seriously lock me away so his mistress could sip Cabernet in my dining room? You ever felt rage so bright it lights cobwebs? That attic glowed. But then a colder flame flickered. Strategy. Months earlier, before Tim's ego ballooned, I had quietly reversed the quitclaim deed he'd bullied me into signing. One lunch with my law school roommate Allie, one signature, and Maple Lane was back in my maiden name. Tim never bothered to verify. He lived in a universe where facts bent to his will. From my prison, I could smell roast beef and thyme, my recipe, hijacked for his show-off soiree. Yet even while anger pulsed, I remembered Mom's advice. Never swing until you know where the punch will land. I spent the night plotting under rafters laced with spiderweb lace. At dawn's first rosy smear, I texted Allie, who'd traded litigation for real estate domination. List 27 Maple Lane, cash buyers only. Want a sold sign before the weekend. She responded with a gif of a shark in lipstick. Game on. While Tim snored in our four-poster bed, I showered, slipped into my softest pajamas, pink plaid, a silent middle finger to his dinner party dress code, brewed coffee so strong it could stand unassisted, and greeted Allie's photographer at the door. We staged the foyer with fresh lilies, parting gift from Tim's florist invoice, and snapped pictures while sunlight pooled through stained glass. By the time birds claimed the eaves, the listing was live. Maple Lane trended on Zillow like a celebrity breakup. Victorian gem, original crown molding, must-see cupola. My phone pinged until my wrist buzzed numb. 8 offers, 5 over asking. I accepted the highest. Full cash, 2-day close, no contingencies. When Tim wandered downstairs, hair wild, mouth tasting of last night's Bordeaux, he found me whistling as I buttered toast. "Morning," I chirped. He thumbed the remote. "Why does our address show up on my newsfeed?" "Maybe the algorithm thinks you're ready for a move," I answered, slicing grapefruit with exaggerated calm. He grunted, unaware that half our joint savings had already migrated into an account titled Phoenix Fund, under my social security number only. Inspection day arrived quickly, under skies the color of mother of pearl. Allie swept in with the buyers, a retired couple from Boca Raton craving New England summers. Tim, bleary-eyed and shirtless, blocked the threshold like a doorman who'd lost the guest list. "Private residence," he protested. "Not for long," Allie sang, slipping past him on stiletto heels. The Boca pair cooed over the wainscoting. Tim's eyes ping-ponged between them and me. I handed him 2 documents, the reinstated deed, bearing only my name, and a purchase agreement with an earnest money deposit larger than his annual bonus. "You can't sell my house," he rasped. "My house," I corrected, "and escrow's already underway." Bluster ballooned in his chest, then collapsed. "We're married. That's marital property." "Not when you coerced a signature and parked a mistress in the parlor. Courts call that bad faith. Look it up." The Boca couple adored the original tin ceiling. Tim tried to explain the misunderstanding, but they took my silence as negotiation poise and upped their offer by 10 grand on the spot. Allie flashed me a grin that could cut glass. Later, while movers cataloged furniture for appraisal, Tim paced our bedroom, pleading, cursing, then bargaining. I recorded everything on my phone, evidence for whichever threat he landed on. He swore he'd fight the sale. I reminded him that litigation involves discovery. His slush payments to Cassie, late-night Venmos labeled consulting, and the corporate card charges from a boutique hotel. He gulped like a man who's just glimpsed his own obituary. That evening, thunder rolled inside Tim's lungs. He hurled accusations at the wallpaper. I stacked my mother's quilt in a cedar chest and felt oddly serene. I'd learned during childhood storms that counting seconds between lightning and thunder tells you how far danger is. Last night, I counted nothing, because the danger was already behind the padlock he foolishly wielded. Closing day unfolded in a sleek downtown office with glass walls that caught the sun like museum panels. The Boca couple passed around pens scented faintly of jasmine, factory novelty, while Tim slumped beside me, necktie hanging like an untied noose. Using Mom's blue fountain pen, I signed each page, ink blooming across legal parchment. "Stand tall, Rach," her ghost handwriting reminded me. When the final signature dried, the wire transfer landed. 7 figures, crisp and silent and powerful. I wired a healthy chunk to a seaside condo I'd toured online 2 nights earlier, then texted Allie a single emoji, a flaming phoenix. Meanwhile, Tim's phone chimed 10 unreturned calls from Cassie, whose promotion apparently hinged on Tim funding her wellness startup. Without home equity, there would be no angel investor. When we returned to Maple Lane to gather personal items, moving trucks bearing the new owner's logo already idled at the curb. Tim attempted to haul his golf trophies and a leather sectional back inside. Deputies, hired by the buyers, reminded him politely that trespass was a misdemeanor. He looked around, dazed, as though expecting someone to declare it an elaborate prank, then focused on me with eyes hollow as emptied whiskey bottles. "You stole my life," he whispered. "You locked your wife in an attic," I said, tipping my chin toward the rafters looming above. One deputy nearly smiled. A local reporter, tipped by Allie's intern, captured the scene. The headline the next morning made front-page gossip. CEO, wife sells home out from under cheating husband. Cash deal in under 48 hours. A week slid by like a gull skimming waves. I woke to the salt-sweet rhythm of the Atlantic outside the balcony of my new condo. Unpacking felt like unspooling a brighter timeline. Seashell white walls, nautical striped pillows, an office nook with an ocean view. I draped Mom's quilt over a wicker love seat and placed the attic padlock on my desk as a paperweight. A relic of captivity transformed into a symbol of sovereignty. Tim's life, I later learned through the grapevine, had compressed itself into a 1-bedroom near the airport, rent co-signed by Cassie, a co-sign that dissolved once her boss decided scandal wasn't a good look for leadership. The board of Tim's company restructured him into early retirement. When he messaged asking for his mail, I forwarded it without comment. Some storms don't deserve a goodbye. I brewed iced tea, condensation beating along the glass, and stepped onto the balcony. The ocean's hush sounded like applause muted by velvet curtains. Listener, have you ever tasted victory that's half honey, half cayenne? It warms and burns, cleansing like sunrise after a sleepless night. That's the flavor of reclaiming your own narrative. I snapped a selfie with the sold sign Allie had mailed me for nostalgia, me barefoot, Breeze teasing my hair, and posted it with the caption, "Never cage a woman who owns the keys." Within minutes, likes bloomed. Tim's cousin double-tapped. Family gossip moves at the speed of spite. Sunset painted the horizon tangerine, and I felt an unfamiliar yet welcome hum. Peace mingling with purpose. There would be new chapters, maybe charity flips of old homes, maybe mentorship circles for women escaping controlling partners. But for now, my only appointment was with the tide. So remember, friends, freedom isn't handed over, it's unlocked, sometimes with a padlock clicking shut behind the wrong person. If this story struck a chord, hit subscribe, because tomorrow I'm sharing the most surprising thing I found wedged between the attic floorboards after Tim dragged me up those creaky steps. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.